Hey guys, what's up? It's Jordan here. So kind of wanted to do like a 6-month review. I bought this Rokinon 10mm f2.8 at the beginning of the year when I first took my trip to Colorado at the end of January. And so after having it for 6 or so months, let me go ahead and, kind of give it a breakdown. This thing is great, especially if you're doing like landscape or astrophotography, or even if you need something that's kind of in the ballpark that's not super overly priced for like real estate photography. Now, though, I will say there are a few downsides to this. Number one, the lens hood itself is permanently attached. I think Rokinon has a Series 2, which the lens hood is removable. So I was checking out Rokinon's website. I don't see this version on there. There's a Series 2 and like a couple other different ones. But this one, I think I bought this used off eBay, and it's probably the first generation of this lens. Now, it has a max aperture of f2.8, and it goes all the way up to an f22. So in my findings, and I'll go ahead and I'll throw some examples up here. I shot at each aperture starting with f2.8, going all the way up to f22. And for this lens specifically, the best aperture I found is actually f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, 11, 16, and 22. There are stops in between each one of them. I looked on Rokinon's website and I couldn't find what the percentage was for each stop. So I'm thinking probably between f5.6 and f8 is probably either like a 6.2 or a 7.1. That's actually where I found this to be the sharpest out of all the apertures. Was probably right in the middle of the 5.6 and f8. So I would think that that's probably like a 6.5 or a 7.1 aperture. Now, my findings were I basically put this on a camera on a tripod, and I basically set it up against a wall, and I went through each photo and every corner, and I'll call it f6.5, let's say, because I'm not really sure. I would think that this is probably, I would say that there are probably one stop in between each of the apertures, or at least half a stop between each of the apertures. Anyways, so probably like an f6.5, f7. Ooh, I'm filming this right now, and it is pouring outside, and that was a pretty close lightning strike. So yeah, probably like an f6.5 or an f7 is the sharpest aperture that I found. For videos, I will say that even at an f2.8, now I've used this a couple of times on real estate listings. F2.8 is good if there's not really a lot of light. It doesn't open wide enough to really let in a ton of light. It's still usable. I paired this with my Canon EOS Rebel SL3 or the 250D. On my last one, it was a little small townhome, and I was shooting at an ISO of 800 with basically interior lights on and an open sliding glass door, and it still kind of felt like there wasn't enough light to really let this lens shine. Now, that's not to say it's not usable. I always use this for astrophotography too, especially when I'm doing either like Milky Way shots or just star shots in general. For the crop sensor with the APS-C size sensor, especially for Canon, so 1.6 times crop, this is a 16mm. I think this is perfectly fine for a focal length. I do want to pick up like a Rokinon fisheye, probably somewhere around a 7 or an 8mm, just because I want to get more field of view when I do astro. 16 is a good start. I would say if anybody's looking to get into astrophotography, if you can find these used, I got this off eBay for like 90 bucks. And then I had the girl express ship it to me because I was trying to leave for Colorado like a day after that. Still highly recommend this lens. The con for this, the worst part about it is it's so heavy in the back end. The back of this is, I would say this is probably close to a pound of lens. I know Canon has the 10-18 and the 10-22 lens, or the 10-20 lens. I wanted something that was able to open aperture wider than an f3.5, so that's why I bought this. I was looking at the Tamron 11-17s, but I just didn't feel that it was going to be wide enough for real estate if I ever got into it. Now, I would say the biggest downside to this lens right here for real estate is maybe sometimes it's not wide enough, especially there are certain instances, like, I mean, shooting in really small bathrooms, that this just felt still so narrow that it almost felt like I needed something wider. I think having a fisheye, and I'll have to try it if I ever pick one up, but I think having a fisheye even might still be a pretty good option for really tight spaces, and then just crop it in a little bit to get rid of the vignetting and the roundness around the edges. So in doing some testing, obviously all the examples I did, I added a lens profile correction. I didn't remove any chromatic aberration, but I did remove the vignetting on this. Just out of the box, if you're shooting with this, you are going to have vignetting and you are going to have distortion with this 10mm lens. I use the built-in profile in Lightroom. I basically just go to click on the lens profile. I go to Rokinon. I choose the 10mm f2.8, and it basically gets rid of all the distortion and all the vignetting, so I don't really have a problem with that. Shooting it with for real estate, you definitely are going to have to go through and you're going to have to dial in, especially the distortion on some of that, because there's a few times where I would shoot and I'd be pretty close to a wall, and you just kind of, even with the profile correction, you just notice a slight bend in it. So you're going to have to play with it. If you give yourself enough wiggle room and you shoot really straight on with this, if you have your camera and your lens level, your tripod's all level, at least this way you're not having to crop in so much to get rid of distortion. So that's just something to consider, but highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for just a cheap alternative. I got this on eBay for like 90 bucks. I had her express ship it so I could get it next day, but totally worth it. 6-month review. Still probably one of my favorite go-to lenses for landscape, astro, and obviously real estate, because this is the only wide-angle lens that I have. If this was informative and you're looking at Rokinon 10mm lenses, go ahead, give it a like, give it a thumbs up or whatever. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you didn't like it, also give it a thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.